restriction is when the weight of the fetus is less than the 10th percentile for its gestational age.
Okay, very good. How will you know the centile?
Okay.
You said the weight has to be below the 10th percentile, right? So how will you know the centile? Through a growth chart.
By plotting it on a graph.
Yes, exactly. See, IUGR, when it comes to your level, like undergraduate levels, they will not expect much from you when it comes to the management. But your history taking has to be perfect and your examination findings. Because more than that, they might not expect from you. And fetal growth per se is, I can compare it to a correlation to growing a plant. See, when you plant a seed in the ground, how will you know that the plant is going to grow well? First is from the inherent quality of the seed. If you've planted a good quality seed, it will give rise to a good plant. On top of that, what nutrients it gets from the soil, how much you water the seed, as well as the sunlight. Similarly, the fetal growth depends upon how good the embryo is, that is, its genetic potential, which comes from both the parents. And the other thing is the substrate supply, which is basically what nutrients it gets from its mother, and the placental sufficiency, like the blood supply. Okay, what is the before you start your case presentation? What is the difference between early IUGR and late IUGR? More commonly known as symmetrical and asymmetrical. Like you'll see us ranting out in the wards. Do you know the difference?
So late IUGR is more common. Early IUGR can be because of factors like torch infections, whereas late IUGR is generally due to placental insufficiency or some inadequate nutrition to the mother and factors like that.
Okay.
Late IUGR has a better prognosis.
Okay, see, I'll tell you the difference. Early IUGR, I will give you a correlation so that you will remember it lifelong. It is like lockdown. See, when lockdown happened, it happened early on. So we all knew that we have limited number of supplies. So we have to use it carefully. In early IUGR also, the insult occurs early in pregnancy, usually before 20 weeks. That is why your chromosomal anomalies, congenital chromosomal disorders, congenital malformations all lead to early IUGR. So the fetus is already adapted to hypoxia. So it will use the substrate limited. So all the parameters, your head circumference, abdominal circumference, all its parameters are equally reduced. What happens in late IUGR is like there is a cut off of water supply in your house. So what will all of us do? We will prioritize. We will keep more amount of water for what is essential, like cooking or taking a bath. Yes, and we will keep lesser. Similarly, the fetus will develop a compensatory response. So it gives more blood supply to the brain, to the heart, which are the important organs. That is how the head circumference is more than the abdominal circumference or the other parameters in late IUGR. That is why preeclampsia, that is placental insufficiency, right? It happens towards the later stages and it gives rise to late IUGR. Okay, start. You can start your presentation.
So late IUGR can be like generally second trimester as well, or later than that?
Like usually second trimester, because preeclampsia starts developing after the second wave of trophoblastic. Yeah. So it can happen anytime, but usually it starts developing from the second trimester. See, when a patient comes to us, we cannot say when this pathological process has started. There is no way to predict. We can just say, oh, it has started now, and we can just monitor the pregnancy. That is why in fetal growth restriction, it is very important to monitor the pregnancy so that we can, balance when that the baby should also be healthy, as well as there should not be any trouble to the mother also. Healthy mother and healthy baby concept that way. That is why monitoring and timing the delivery. As you present your history, I will tell you what all is important so that you know what all you have to ask the patient. Okay? Start.
So Mrs. XYZ, a 35-year-old Hindu female, gravida 2, para 1, living 1, married since 8 years, laborer by occupation, belonging to the lower socioeconomic class as per Kupuswamy classification, came to the ANC OPD 2 days ago, and upon detection of small size and weight of the baby, was admitted on 17th September 2020 for history of amenorrhea since 8 months.
Okay, now we will go back to the initial data. You said the age is 35 years of age. What is the importance of age in fetal growth restriction?
More than 35 years is high risk, so that's why I thought I could include that.
Extremes of age less than 20 years and usually more than 30 years, fetal growth restriction is commonly seen in these age groups. Okay. Then you said she belongs to a lower socioeconomic status. What is that? What is the importance? Yes, social deprivation, malnutrition, more commonly seen in cases with fetal growth restriction. After that, did you calculate the gestational age?
Yes, 8 months and 3 days. So
8 months and 3 days. What is the importance of rather than what is the importance of determination of gestational age in IUGR?
So that when we see the fundal height, we can see whether it correlates to the what it is by LMP, because LMP one is considered reliable, and so based on that,
it is considered reliable when
that can give us when she remembers the date exactly and is more.
It is more reliable when she remembers.
Maybe.
When she remembers the date and if she has had previous regular cycles. Okay. If she has had previous irregular cycles.
Otherwise also there is just a correction. No?
There is a correction. That's what. No, if she has had previous irregular cycles, is her LMP reliable?
No.
Will you take her LMP as her reliable data for calculation of gestational age? You cannot. So if she's had regular 35-day cycles, then you add 7 number of days to the date. Or if she has had regular, whatever is the deduction, you can always do. Why gestational age is important is for timing the delivery. Most of the times, what happens is you have to deliver them at this particular gestational age, right? Yes. If you miscalculate the gestational age and you deliver her, it can lead to iatrogenic prematurity. That is the importance of the gestational age. Even 1 week of difference can make a lot of difference in the prognosis of the fetus. Okay. If her LMP is unreliable, what are the other methods of estimation of gestational age? See, these are the questions they will ask you, which are there in your datta.
So, dating scan, that is generally done at 10 to 12 weeks.
Okay.
And there are also biomarkers like the triple marker and quadruple marker.
From that, can you calculate her gestational age?
No, it is mainly for prognosis, whether to see.
Yes. Date of quickening, isn't it? Then her date of.
Generally, it's 20 weeks, right?
20 weeks in primary and 22 weeks in multi.
And earlier in. Multi is earlier or later?
1 minute, I am also confused. Multi is earlier, I think. This one I'm not too sure, but it's 22 and 20 weeks. One of the two. Then you have to ask her if there is any particular festival which she might see. She's from a low socioeconomic status. So she will tell Rakhi ke aspas hua hoga ya iske aspas hua hoga. So from that you can get an idea. Other thing is from her date of positive urine pregnancy test. If she is educated or if she knows better, she will always remember the date of her urine pregnancy test. From that date, you have to add 256 days. Okay, and in your data, there are a list of things that are given. From that, you can calculate the date of estimated gestational age. But the most reliable parameter is LMP if her cycles are irregular. If her cycles are irregular, it is the dating scan.
Yes, ma'am.
When it is done between 9 to 11 weeks of gestational age. Okay. And next.
So menstrual history, she attained menarche at 14 years of age. Past menstrual cycles
history of
were
present
regular.
Pregnancy. 1 minute. Your history of present pregnancy.
Okay, should I start that before the regular? I just said that menses are regular. So is that to be mentioned?
No, you all don't present. Your presenting complaint is done, isn't it?
Okay.
Your chief complaint was she came to the hospital. Chief complaint
with
you said,
8 months of
right?
amenorrhea for a
8
NC checkup. Yeah.
Okay. After that, you have to give history of presenting illness. No,
Okay.
you all
So,
present.
ma'am, patient
That's how
conceived
you.
for the
Hmm.
so patient conceived for the second time after marriage, and it was a spontaneous conception.
Okay.
Ma'am, could you tell exactly what the definition of a spontaneous conception is? I'm not entirely sure of that.
Spontaneous conception means she has conceived without any help like
Okay.
ART methods.
Yes. Okay.
It is not an IUI conception or it is not an IVF conception or any other forms of assisted reproductive techniques. She has conceived spontaneously. That's how it is. Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
So,
In
ma'am, now should I tell about the
tell.
now
You
should I
want to
tell
know
about
the
the
pattern
first
of.
gravida thing?
See, your pattern
Hello.
should be you've given your chief complaint, then history of presenting
Yes.
illness. Like you have to elaborate your complaint basically. That she came in brief. She came to the hospital for a regular ANC checkup, and she was told that so and so is the problem, and that is why she has been admitted for further evaluation. Then it is your history of present pregnancy. That is your first trimester, second trimester, third trimester. After that, either comes the obstetric history or the menstrual history. Okay, that order we usually say obstetric history, then menstrual history, then the past history, family history, and the personal history. Okay, then comes your examination.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So, the history of the present pregnancy. Pregnancy was confirmed by urine pregnancy test after visiting a doctor on 16th March. That is the after 8 weeks of amenorrhea.
Okay.
There was no history of increased significant vomiting or nausea, fever, bleeding, or discharge per vaginally, or exposure
What is
to
the
any kind of
significance?
radiation or any drug intake.
What is the significance of each complaint? You have to tell me, Omkar.
Okay. Ma'am, so vomiting, little bit of it is acceptable because of some increased HCG levels and mainly that. But too much of vomiting might have some
Hyperemesis.
gravida.
Hyperemesis, malnutrition. Malnutrition, growth restriction. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Excessive vomiting is not there. That is the significance. Then next, what did you tell me?
Nausea, similar.
Nausea, okay. Nausea, vomiting, all related. Next.
Fever and bleeding or discharge per vaginally, mainly for any kind of infections which might have affected
Which
the
infections
growth
are
of
common?
the TORCH infection, that is toxoplasmosis, rubella, cytomegalovirus, and herpes.
TORCH, okay. TORCH infections, malaria, tuberculosis, typhoid. Okay. All these infections can cause FGR.
Yeah.
After that, what was the next thing you said? Bleeding PV. Okay. Bleeding PV.
Miscarriage.
Miscarriage, threatened miscarriage, not that significant when it comes to fetal growth restriction. Okay. Next, radiation exposure.
And exposure to radiation. Yeah.
Exposure to radiation, okay, can cause fetal growth restriction, possible. All right. Let's go further.
Yeah. So yes, on our second ANC visit in April, that is in the third month, the USG scan, which was the dating scan, was normal. Yeah. So in the second trimester, patient was.
She did her dating scan. When did you tell me?
Ma'am, also I thought that the first visit will be at 8 weeks, so maybe she'll be called for a dating scan at 11 or 12 weeks because that's the.
See, you have to say in the patient's words. When did she tell you she did her first scan?
Actually, it's a
You must have
hypothetical
asked,
case,
man.
so I was just thinking about.
This is a hypothetical
But generally,
case. Okay. Whatever it is, whatever the
generally in the
patient
first
tells, you know.
First visit. Yes.
Yeah, generally in the first visit we tell, but depends when the patient has done, and everything should be in patient's words. Okay. She did her sonography in the first trimester. If USG was done, tell the sonography was done. If it was not done, tell it was not done. Sonography was directly done in the second trimester. Okay. And bleeding PV, when you said one correlation is if she kept bleeding throughout her pregnancy, like in some cases they keep telling I kept having spotting. kept having spotting. Other thing is it could lead to either anemia or prolonged spotting. That is so there is some problem with the placenta. There might be a placental separation going on somewhere, which can affect the growth of the fetus. All right.
Yeah.
And the sonography will tell you about her serial growth. You can ask her, sonography में सब बराबर था क्या? बच्चा बढ़ रहा था बराबर था क्या? Because they usually understand that language. Okay. चलो second trimester. Next.
Second trimester, the patient was given iron and folic acid tablets as per.
No.
She was started in
Ma'am,
the
just
4th
one.
month and they were continued.
Yes. Omkar, 1 minute. I think Saurabh is talking.
Yeah, ma'am, just
Yes.
1 minute. Actually, some people are not being added. I'll just ask.
Okay.
Vishal,
let us know.
hello. Vishal? Hello? Can you make me the host back? Actually, some people are, I don't know why are they not being added. Some mistake. Okay, ma'am. Continue.
Okay.
Okay. Yes.
So, one clarification. Omkar had asked me that regarding the date of quickening. It is 20 weeks in primary and 22 weeks in multi. Okay, Omkar?
Okay.
So, continue with the
Thank you.
second trimester history.
Iron and folic acids were given as per the government scheme. And there was no history of fever,
Now, should I
headache,
ask you what
blurring
is
of.
the government scheme?
Ma'am, it started 60 milligram of iron and 500 microgram of folic acid tablets are started for 365 days. So the last 6 months of the pregnancy, like starting from the 4th month, and its total is 365 days. So continued after delivery as well.
Okay. चल आगे बढ़ो. And 60 milligram elemental iron, but we don't have 60 milligram tablets if you pick up your tablet.
Tablet dose is different. Ma'am.
Yes. Okay. Continue.
So there was no history of fever, headache, blurring of vision. So these are asked to rule out gestational hypertension or maybe detected hypertension at that point of time. Swelling of legs, epigastric pain, backache, and discharge per vaginally.
Okay. Why did you ask discharge per vagina in the second trimester?
Infections again.
Infections in the second trimester, torch infections. Did you ask if she felt the fetal movements quickening?
That was felt at 19 weeks. And tetanus toxoid injections were given twice, 4 weeks apart at 16 and 20 weeks.
Will the patient tell you I felt at 19 weeks, or will she talk to you in terms of months?
4.5 mahina. Okay, so in the 5th month, maybe. Okay.
So that is one correction. Okay. Otherwise, fine. Aage.
And so third trimester.
Third trimester?
So third trimester, again, there was no history of any. The fetal movements intensified. Ma'am, I don't know in what way do we have to ask for the duration and frequency? Like, बच्चा हिलता महसूस हुआ is okay, but do we have to ask how many or whether it increased or?
No. You can just say, she is not going to say, in fact, third trimester, they come to you and they'll say कि movements come हो गया because the fetus has grown in size. So you have to just say continues to perceive fetal movements. She's continuing to perceive fetal movements. Understood? Only that much you have to mention because she will not say कि कम हुआ, ज़्यादा हुआ. It's very difficult to say. No? You have to just ask, अभी भी बच्चा हिलता है ना, बराबर हिलता है ना. If she came, see, most of the times these patients will come to you with complaints of diminished fetal movements. Then you can say in that she was admitted in view of diminished fetal movements. But otherwise, if there are no complaints, say continues to perceive fetal movements even in the third trimester. Okay.
Yeah.
And
next. She was admitted 2 days ago for investigation and safe confinement.
Ultrasonography not done in the last trimester. You have to mention, na? Ultrasonography was done in which the growth was found to be normal, Or if, see, one more reason is they might have oligohydramnios. So she was admitted in view of diminished lighter volume. Ultrasonography has to be mentioned. And even in the third trimester, if she has symptoms of impending eclampsia, like headache, epigastric pain, blurring of vision. Okay.
Yes. And so what is the ideal frequency of ultrasounds? Like we have the dating scan at 10 to 12 weeks and anomaly scan at 18 weeks. And after
the
that,
first scan ideally should be the dating scan, 9 to.
Okay.
And usually now what is the recommendation is there is something called as NT scan, if you remember.
Knuckle translucency.
Which has to be done between 11 to 13 plus 6 weeks of gestation. So the dating scan and that is clubbed usually and done between 10 to 12 weeks. After that is the anomaly scan, next scan which has to be done. That is 18 to 22 weeks. Okay. After that, in between, you will have to do one growth scan, like to see if the growth is proper, around 32 weeks of gestation, 32 to 34 weeks. And after that, in a normal woman, then after the 37 weeks, maybe one scan for knowing that everything is, that is a term scan after 37 weeks. Okay. That could be whenever you are planning to deliver this lady, like you need an idea about the placenta, the Leica volume, that is in a normal primary gravida or in a normal pregnant woman. In FGR, see, there is some problem going on. So the frequency of, we do a scan with the Doppler after 32 weeks, maybe depending on the baby. If everything is okay, then every 2 weekly. If there is some compromise going on, if the umbilical artery Doppler is abnormal, then we might ask for a weekly Doppler. Okay. So with FGR, it changes. I'm sorry. If it's abnormal.
Okay, repeat.
If the umbilical artery Doppler is abnormal, like in that also there is something called as, there is reduced end diastolic flow, there is absent end diastolic flow, and there is reversal. If there is reduced If there is reduced end diastolic flow, we do a weekly Doppler. If there is absent or reversal, and we are waiting for the steroids to act, or we are waiting for like her to reach a particular gestational age, then with taking the risk and explaining the risk to the patient, we might do a scan daily. Okay. Otherwise, if there is no chance of waiting, then we might terminate the pregnancy. The normal pregnancy, you understood, right? 4 scans minimum.
Yes.
What is a booked patient?
So now, booked patient is a patient who registered in a at a ENC clinic and then completed the 2 follow-up visits regularly.
As per your definition, it is at least 3 antenatal visits, out of which ideally first should be in the first trimester.
Okay.
And after that, the 1 or 2 visits in the third trimester. And should have received iron and folic acid and 2 doses of tetanus toxoid. Okay.
Okay. So now moving to the menstrual history. Past cycles were regular every 28 days. Bleeding was not hello. Hello. Okay, ma'am left it.
We can hear you, Omkar.
Yes. Ma'am has left.
Ma'am.
Krishna Saurabh, ma'am has left the meeting.
Yeah.
Let
me ask Saurabh to
Hello. Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, there was some technical glitch. Wait 1 minute. Hello. Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
ma'am, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry. Continue. I think I
Uh,
disconnected your call in between.
yeah. So menstrual history, menarche was attained at 14 years of age. Past menstrual cycles were regular every 28 days. No, bleeding was normal, lasting for 3 to 4 days without any significant complaints. Yeah. So since the last menstrual period was 14 January 2020, the estimated date of delivery by Nagel's rule is 21 October 2020. Ma'am is left again.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Continue. I'm really sorry. Tell me. Continue with your menstrual history. Did you tell me your her
So,
past obstetric history?
no, I haven't. So that will be before the menstrual issue. Yeah. So past obstetric history, she has a gravida one. So that was male child, 4 years old now.
The voice is breaking.
Normal vaginal delivery. Hello. Yes,
Huh?
ma'am. Am I
Yeah.
audible? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So gravida one was a male child delivered 4 years
Hmm.
ago. A normal vaginal
Hmm.
delivery at 39 weeks of gestation.
Hmm.
Delivered in a government hospital, cried immediately, and there was no requirement for any incubation or blood transfusion. And there
Hmm.
was no complications or illnesses during the antenatal as well as the postnatal period for the mother or the baby. The baby weight was 2.4 kg. So I
She
thought I'll
remembered
include
2
this
points.
as
If she remembers
no.
the baby weight, some mothers are intelligent. They will remember. So it's okay. You can say if the mother has clearly told you, "मेरा बच्चा इतने वजन का था," you tell. So that you know, history of a previous IUGR baby is a significant history. Because she has previously also had a FGR baby, there's a possibility she might have it in this pregnancy as well. If she remembers, well and good. If she doesn't remember, say birth weight is unknown.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Aage. If she had preeclampsia in the previous pregnancy, that has to be mentioned. If she had history of anemia in the previous pregnancy, like any history of previous hospital admissions, आज खून चढ़ाया था क्या, खून कम था क्या, आकड़ी आया था क्या, BP बढ़ा था क्या. Okay, these are significant histories.
Okay, so there was no epilepsy, no kind of previous surgeries or gynecological or any other surgeries. And Akadi is epilepsy, right?
No, Akadi is when we ask if we ask for eclampsia. Akadi is seizures basically. But in this case, there is more. It is more significant. It is more significant in terms of eclampsia. You'll ask in terms of eclampsia. Okay, Akadi is seizures in general.
Yes.
आगे चलो.
The couple did not use any contraception in the past. So, okay. Now, past history, there is no history of diabetes, hypertension, asthma, heart or kidney disease, tuberculosis or tuberculosis COX contact, sorry, allergy or any kind of other surgery. Family history is non-contributory. There is no known genetic illness affecting the previous child or, yeah.
What
The
family
sleep is
history is
normal.
significant?
Generally, if the maybe short stature, which can be constitutional or hereditary, that might be normal for the baby might still turn out to be normal.
What do you call such children? They're called SGA babies.
Okay.
There is a small correlation if she was an IUGR baby, if the mother herself was an IUGR baby, there is a small correlation that there is a possibility that she will deliver a growth restricted baby. Okay. And family history of diabetes, hypertension, all that you asked. आगे.
Bowel and bladder movements were normal. Maybe frequency of bladder movements slightly increased due to pressure of the gravid uterus. Maybe. There
Give your
is no
personal
history of
history. Okay.
There is no history of any kind of addictions to drugs, cigarettes, smoking, alcohol.
Hmm.
So
What is the correlation? Which
smoking can
drug can
cause.
cause?
Uh,
Which drug can cause IUGR?
warfarin.
Drug abuse.
Sorry. Uh, cocaine.
Cocaine. Yes, cocaine and opiates.
Okay.
Okay. Alcoholism can cause. And caffeine intake also, more than 300 milligram per day in the third trimester.
Okay.
These are the things. So, again.
So dietary history, the patient is a vegetarian and consumes 2000 kilocalories per day, which is about 500 kilocalories lesser than the recommended value.
Okay, this is hypothetical case, but you know how to calculate in the exam, na?
Yes, ma'am. And the protein, ma'am, what is the protein recommended? Like it's 1 gram per day, and plus what is the additional thing for being pregnant?
1.25 milligram per day, na?
Okay.
Isn't it? And excess. To continue with the history, I will let you know.
Okay. So general examination history is done now. Just
yes.
Yeah. So the patient is conscious, cooperative, well oriented to time, place, and person, averagely built and nourished, and was examined in presence of a female attendant. The height of the patient is 152 centimeters. The weight is, ma'am, for the BMI, we have to calculate using the pre-pregnancy weight, right? Which is 46 kilograms. And BMI is 19.9, which is healthy.
What will you expect in a case of IUGF?
Like lower to just lower normal. So 18.5 or slightly less. Okay. And the total weight gain is like in normal pregnancy, it is 11 kgs, right, ma'am? So maybe in this case, I can say it is 6 or 7 or.
I'm sorry?
Ma'am, the total weight gain in pregnancy, that will also be less in IUGR, right?
Yes, normally it is 11 to 15 kgs. And the division is for 1 kg in the first trimester, 5 kgs in the second, and 5 kgs in the third. That is your basic. That will also be less, yes, obviously.
So the patient was afebrile to touch and pulse was 75 beats per minute, regular in rhythm, normal volume, and measured in right radial artery. All other peripheral pulses were bilaterally palpable. The blood pressure was 120 by 80 millimeters of mercury in right upper arm in the brachial artery measured. And this is for supine setting, or should we measure both?
Ideally, you have to take it in the sitting position, but if you're going to do it bedside, right? So the bed should be propped up, slightly propped up.
Okay.
And in the right arm.
Okay.
Okay. And she should be relaxed.
Respiratory rate 16 beats per minute regular.
Did you tell about the picture, pallor icterus?
That after just I'm saying. So
after this will tell.
On Paler, I have a question. So Paler, I just thought that if she might have malnutrition, there might be a slight mild decrease in hemoglobin. So will that manifest as Paler proper, or like generally what do we expect?
See, when you're seeing the lower palpable conjunctiva, whatever you see, if you see there is Paler, you write Paler.
Okay.
Malnutrition and anemia.
And
present. That's all. Paler is present.
Paler present, and there is no icterus, cyanosis, clubbing, lymphadenopathy, or edema.
Edema, if she has associated preeclampsia, you say there is edema then, fetal edema.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
On systemic examination, central nervous system, respiratory system, and cardiovascular system are normal. Breath sounds heard normally, bilateral, and S1, S2 heard. Now here. Can I start obstetric examination now?
Yes. Start.
So on inspection, the
How will
abdomen
you
is
do the
uniformly
obstetric
enlarged
examination? How will you do the
in the
obstetric
presence of a female
examination?
attendant after explaining
Huh?
all the procedure to the
Mhm.
patient,
Mhm.
and in a like maybe secluded
How is the
room or maybe.
patient? Patient is lying supine.
Yes, ma'am.
You are
Exposed, the
standing on the
abdomen
right
being
side.
exposed. Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
How much will you expose the
Female attendant
abdomen? How
till the
much of
pubic
abdomen to be
symphysis.
exposed? From the pubic symphysis to the
From xiphisternum to pubic symphysis.
yes.
Xiphisternum.
Then ask the patient to empty the bladder.
Uh, okay.
Whenever your examiner is asking you how will you examine, it should come fat. Patient is lying supine. I will stand on the right side of the patient. The patient should have emptied the bladder and come. I will expose the abdomen from the xiphisternum to the pubic symphysis. And after that, the legs will be slightly flexed. Why are you flexing the legs?
To
To relax
relax
the
the
rectus
abdominal muscle so
abdominis
that
muscle.
palpation is.
Yes. And then I'll start with the inspection.
Okay. So on
Okay, this is
inspection,
basic. Hmm.
the abdomen is uniformly enlarged. There is
Mhm.
a ovoid enlargement. Umbilicus is flat.
Ovoid enlargement. Okay.
Uterus is okay. So umbilicus is
Longitudinally
flat.
distended. Mhm.
Okay. And the linea nigra is seen from the pubic
Mhm.
symphysis to the umbilicus. There is no visible
Okay.
peristalsis, pulsation, engorgement of veins, or any scars, sinuses.
Hmm.
There is no mass per abdomen other than the uterus.
Can you see
And
the?
there
You're
is,
telling me the inspection, right?
yes, ma'am. Sorry.
So
Sorry.
on inspection, can you see mass per abdomen? Can you see the mass? It has to be very prominent, and you
Hmm.
have a gravid uterus sitting there, no?
Yes.
So okay,
Ha.
you will say
And
your ovoid mass, and you can see abdomen is longitudinally distended. You can see the linea nigra. If you can see the striae gravidarum, you tell about the striae gravidarum. Umbilicus is flat or everted, whatever it is. Since this is a case of fetal growth restriction, it is most probably flat and no scar sinuses. That's it. And if you see any scars, you mention about the scar. If she has an appendectomy scar or she has a sinus steel scar, US child was delivered by C-section, then sinus steel scar. Okay. Then the palpation.
no local rise of temperature, no tenderness. Yeah, that's it. Then symphysiofundal height, that is corresponding to 28 centimeter, corresponding just above the umbilicus, 4 finger breadths above the umbilicus, corresponding to 32 weeks of, sorry, okay.
Okay.
It was felt
Think,
4 finger breadths above
Aram
the
se.
umbilicus. Okay.
Hmm.
Ma'am, so I was thinking since it is what 35 weeks of
See, you have
it
a
will be
pregnant
less.
uterus. You have a pregnant uterus sitting in front of you. How are you going to start your palpation? How will you do the palpation of this? First, you will take the
With the
fundal
ulnar
height,
border
no?
of the
Before
right
you take,
hand. Huh.
yeah.
Okay.
So first you will tell the fundal height, not the symphysis fundal height. Not take, you don't take out the measuring tape directly. You will take your right hand from the ulnar border of the right hand from the xiphisternum. I will start feeling where I feel the first resistance. That is your fundal height. Wherever you feel. If it is 32 weeks, 32 weeks. If it is 24 weeks, 24 weeks. Where is the 24 weeks? It's at the umbilicus. Then from there you count 4
Umbilicus.
finger breadths. Okay.
Hmm.
After that, you do your symphysiofundal height. Symphysiofundal height is wherever your resistance is there with your measuring tape, with the inches side facing upwards, so that there is no observational error. There is no observational error from the resistance till the pubic symphysis. And that is your symphysiofundal height.
And ma'am, that multiplied by 8 upon 7 will give the week of gestation, right?
Yeah, okay.
So, yes. Ma'am, and are we supposed to do this Johnson's formula?
Johnson's formula is only for term gestation. Most of the time, if it's for other cases, no. For that, you will use
Okay.
Johnson's formula. Fetal growth restriction, usually they are not termed. So for that, it is not valid.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next.
So now the obstetric grapes palpation was done in presence of female attendant, informing the patient of the procedure before performing it. By
You have to
fundal grape.
also mention clinic. 1 minute. You have to also mention whether the clinically lighter appears adequate or not. Okay.
Okay.
How will you know lighter appears adequate? Like in this patient, usually maybe the lighter will appear less because she is still preterm. In
Only
your
the
term patients, the flanks will be full. It will be a fully nice rounded structure sitting on the abdomen. Flanks being full.
Hmm.
Okay. Now obstetric grips, correct. Tell me.
So on the fundal grip, soft irregular mass suggestive of breach was felt. On the right lateral grip, there were multiple knob-like projections which can be interpreted as the limbs. On the left lateral grip, there was a continuous hard board-like structure suggestive of the back. So the presentation can be left occipito-transverse. On Paulick's grip, a firm globular ballotable structure suggestive of fetal head was felt. The lie being longitudinal, attitude being that of flexion. And on deep pelvic grip, the above finding was confirmed, and the hands were converging, and hence which can be interpreted as the engagement not having taken place.
Okay.
So
So now
yeah.
give me your diagnosis.
Now auscultation fetal.
Summarize. Oh, sorry.
Okay. Mrs.
Yes.
It was heard on the spino-umbilical line and fetal heart rate being 132 per minute, beats per minute.
Which
and regular in
spino-umbilical
rhythm.
line? Right, left, up, down.
Left. Sorry.
So you have to mention, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Now
Done?
provisional diagnosis. Yes.
Give me the summary.
Mrs. XYZ, a 35-year-old female. Sorry, not to say female. Mrs. XYZ, a 35-year-old, presenting gravida 2, para 1, living 1, presenting with cessation of menstruation since 8 months, is provisionally diagnosed to be a case of 35 weeks of gestation with a single live fetus, longitudinal-like cephalic presentation with fetal growth restriction. And should be investigated for
further evaluation. Yes. Okay. So now coming to the discussion. So you told me the definition. I've told you the types. You have to know the causes of FGR. Okay. Early onset, I think Omkar has already told us, that is mostly chromosomal abnormalities, congenital anomalies. I think we have, what is the time? We have 15 minutes, right? So I'll just brush up on what all you should know. So coming to the causes of early onset, there are viral infections, that is your torch infection, malaria, congenital malaria basically, tuberculosis, and exposure to any teratogens like radiations, as he said, or if there is a history of any intake of chemotherapeutic drugs, which can be particularly toxic to the fetus. Late onset, in 70 to 80% cases, it is mostly placental insufficiency. And the other contributory factors which can be there's heart disease, renal disease, any smoking, alcohol or drug abuse in the mother. Coming to the diagnosis, this I forgot to ask Omkar, or anybody can answer. How will you diagnose when from your history and your examination? One is there will be decreased weight gain. Your fundal height, how will you say that there is FGR in this, or symphysis of fundal height when you measure? How will you say this is growth restricted? This is a growth restricted fetus. What is the parameter?
It will be at least 2 to 3 weeks or more than that, lesser than
See,
what we expected to be.
Somebody has mentioned, Radhika and all of them, that it's 3 centimeter, lag of 3 centimeter. To be it can be 3 centimeter, okay, but at present the recommendation says lag by at least 4 weeks or a lag of 4 centimeter. Okay. Then like I said, diminished liquor, like the flanks will not be full, and decreased abdominal girth, that I don't think Omkar mentioned. Okay. Coming to the other investigations that you have to do, it is ultrasonography. In ultrasonography, you have to do something called as serial ultrasonography. You have to monitor the growth of the fetus. Out of all the parameters that you know of, biparietal diameter, head circumference, abdominal circumference, which is the most reliable parameter for fetal growth
Abdominal
for serial
circumference.
monitor? Yeah, why? Why is it so? All of you know it is abdominal circumference, but why?
No, because that will be reduced in case of both symmetrical as well as asymmetrical IVF.
Yeah, you are right, but why is it reduced? Is my question.
Because if nutrition is less, then the head circumference will continue to be brain sparing effect.
See,
So head will continue to grow normally.
Samragini said brain sparing effect, but what is the your brain is not in your abdomen, no, beta. I'll tell you what happens. Same concept. There is water cut off
And
in your
brain of the
house.
fetus.
The first thing was the brain of the fetus. Yes, but why will the abdominal circumference decrease then?
Both will be.
The
Blood supply is
blood
low,
supply is reduced. That is reduced
and
overall.
so the blood gets diverted to the brain rather than
Hmm.
going to the abdominal organs most, and the liver happens to be the most compromised organ, and that's why the
Right.
head circumference continues to grow more relative
Hmm.
to the abdominal circumference.
Correct. See, you are relatively right. The glycogen stores of the liver are used up. Okay, liver is the most
Yes, ma'am.
compromised organ because the glycogen stores get used up, and then the blood supply is deviated to the brain. Okay, that is why abdominal circumference is the most sensitive parameter because that is the first parameter to go down. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
After that, the next thing that is more sensitive is the HC by AC ratio. HC by AC ratio will be elevated again because the head circumference is bigger than the abdominal circumference. Okay. Then now coming to the basic management, how will you manage a case of FGR? First, you have to confirm the fetal growth restriction, that there is fetal growth restriction in this fetus. Next thing you have to know is the type. You have to confirm the etiology. All right. After that, if the next question they'll ask you is how will you manage this patient? Management is first of all fetal surveillance. If everything is normal, the fetus is growing okay, the growth is fine, then you do a bi-weekly modified biophysical profile. Anybody knows the the things that come under modified biophysical profile? Hello?
NST and amniotic fluid index. Non-stress
Yeah,
test and
NST
amniotic
and
fluid
amnio.
index.
That is modified biophysical profile. But what are the contents of the biophysical profile? There are gross fetal movements, there is respiratory movements,
Fetal
read up.
tone.
Okay.
Yes.
Fetal tone. Yeah. There are 4 parameters. Biophysical profile and NST are added. NST and AFI are added to the modified biophysical profile. Then you have to do a Doppler. And if everything is normal, you terminate them after 37 weeks. Okay. If there is any abnormality in between, if you feel you have to continue the pregnancy for a minimum of 34 weeks, considering we are in India, that and the NICU facilities are limited at least 34 weeks, so that the NICU admission and the timing for admission is limited for some reason. If you have to terminate at less than 34 weeks, you give them a corticosteroid and deliver them. Otherwise, after 34 weeks, if there is any abnormality, you deliver these patients. Then you need to know the labor management. You have to labor management. What will you do? You have to continuously monitor the fetus. When somebody is asking me a question, is the management different for symmetric and asymmetric IUGR? No, Dhruvi, it is not different. The same management will hold true for symmetrical as well as asymmetrical IUGR. The only difference that there is that, like I said, symmetrical IUGR, they are more adjusted to hypoxia, these fetuses. So they can tolerate hypoxia much better than asymmetrical IUGR babies. Asymmetrical IUGR babies, they might not tolerate hypoxia that well. So maybe the termination of pregnancy in either cases might vary. But otherwise, the whole plan of management is the same. Okay. Do you do a C-section for all IUGR babies? Can anybody answer? Hello? Hello? Samragini says no, you don't do a C-section. If you have, you can give them a trial for vaginal delivery, but you have to do a more intensive fetal heart rate monitoring. You should do an early ARM because they are more prone for meconium staining. Ideally there should be a continuous FHR monitoring with CTG. And if there are any abnormalities, then you take them for LSCs. Otherwise, you can give them a trial. And the last thing you should know is complications of FGR, that is antenatal, neonatal, and late. Okay? I'm not going to tell them, you can read it up. There are a lot of complications of FGR. All right. If there is anything else anybody wants to ask, can ask. Hello?
Ma'am, what is the definition of short stature and how does that, what implications does it have other than contracted pelvis?
Short stature, ideally it is 140 to 143 centimeters. So take an arbitrary number, that is 140 centimeter. I think it is 4 feet or so. So 140 centimeter is short stature, and other than contracted pelvis is the same thing. They might have the labor process itself will be difficult for these women. Other than that, there are no implications. Short stature women, and if she has previously delivered, if the 140 centimeter lady also has previously delivered, you can still give them a trial of labor. Not all short stature women have contracted pelvis. Okay.
Yes.
You have to assess them when they come in labor and then take a decision whether or not to deliver them vaginally or not.
Ma'am, and
Anybody
on
else have anything?
auscultation, the fetal heart rate is normally 110 to 160 beats per minute. So does that be
Yes.
affected by IUGR?
No, if it is lesser or more, it
Yes.
is in distress. That's all you say. In general, there
Yes.
is no change
Okay.
in the fetal heart rate. Okay. Anybody else has any questions?
Ma'am,
So yeah.
hello,
Hmm.
early in the USG
Well,
scans, you said about if the fetus is if there is IUGR present, so we will do weekly scans by taking her consent about giving the risks. So what are the risks associated with weekly USG scans?
weekly USG scan. If I said if she has an abnormal umbilical artery Doppler. Usually, if we think the fetus is growth restricted, we subject them to an umbilical artery Doppler. In the umbilical artery Doppler, the impression can be, see, absent end diastolic flow. First is reduced end diastolic velocity. The next change that will occur is absent, and the next thing that will occur is reversal.
Reversal.
If there is
Yes, ma'am.
reversal, then the fetus might die anytime. If there is absence means you can monitor them. The fetus has about 1 week, and after that you cannot predict when the fetus will die. And if there is reduced end diastolic flow, you have to monitor this fetus properly, because it can either stay as reduced end diastolic flow, or it can anytime progress to absent end diastolic velocity. So when it is reduced end diastolic flow, we do a weekly Doppler. We have to tell the patient to see the blood flow to the baby is less. So you have to come for regular ANC checkups. You have to monitor the fetal movements. Yes, daily fetal movement count is one more thing that you have to tell her to keep a check. These are the things you counsel the patient, because you cannot admit every patient and do a weekly Doppler, because then you have to continue monitoring these patients. So these are the things you tell her. Then after that, if there is absent end diastolic flow, then you admit the patient and tell her that she requires daily Doppler. Like if she is around 32 weeks or she is 33 weeks, where you feel you can pull on for another week, so that the baby's chances of going into the NICU are lesser. Absent end diastolic flow, you will admit and do a daily Doppler. Okay, and if it is reversal, then there is the only thing you do is termination,
Immediate.
like counsel the patient.
Yeah.
Yes, immediate termination. Okay.
And in per abdomen examination, you were saying about the difference of more than 4 weeks or 4 centimeter in the symphysis fundal height, and you said also the abdominal circumference decreases. So what is that
Abdominal
amount?
girth.
Abdominal girth. So for what is that range? What is that minimum requirement to say that there's a significant IUGR, or it classifies into, like we have for 4 centimeters for the expansion of the uterus? What is the
Abdominal girth is a very arbitrary parameter, because see, first of all, these patients are not term patients, so you cannot say. So there is no number given, like how much I have read. There is no number given anywhere that abdominal girth has to be so and so. It will be reduced.
Okay. But still, any practically we see like a reduced by 7 centimeter or 10 centimeter, like because
I'll just let you know 1 minute. I have a
okay.
Until then, if anybody else wants to ask something else. Yeah, some Omkar had asked me about the protein requirement. In the pregnancy, it's usually 60 to 62 milligram per day that 60 to 62 milligram per day that she has to take. And in lactation, it is usually 65 milligram. Like I said, it is 1.25 milligram per kg of body weight. So taking arbitrarily that a pregnant woman is 60 kgs. So you take around 60 to 62 milligram per day.
I mean, if the
I
patient
think-
is pure vegetarian, is there any vitamin B12 deficiency do we expect, and what else? So,
Vitamin B12 deficiency you can expect even in a non-vegetarian, nothing like that.
okay.
And
Okay.
how many women with anemia do you do vitamin B12? You evaluate the vitamin B12 investigation. How many women do we do? If she's a vegetarian
No.
and if you think she'll have protein deficiency, then you give her protein powder. That is what you can do. You can say 2 चम्मच पानी में डाल के पियो. Understood? Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
And if she's coming to you with anemia, and when you do a peripheral sphere, if you see a megaloblastic anemia, only then you then you realize that it is a B12 deficiency, and then you treat her for that. Okay. Somebody had asked me about abdominal girth. Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
See, after 30 weeks, the abdominal girth should increase at a rate of 1 inch per
1
week.
centimeter.
1
Okay.
inch.
Okay.
Abdominal girth nahi. I'm not talking about symphysis-fundal height. That is in centimeters. In abdominal
Okay.
girth, after 30 weeks, it should increase by 1 inch per week. If it is anything less, you are supposed to say abdominal girth is decreased. Okay. Symphysis-fundal height will increase by 1 centimeter per week between 14 and 32 weeks.
32 weeks. Yes.
Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think I have pretty much summarized whatever
Ma'am?
can be asked. Yeah.
Ma'am, since today we knew that this was a case for fetal growth restriction, so we knew what to ask. But then, if we are given a case, and in general also, the patient would come just for a routine checkup. So, what would be the specific questions to ask to rule out FGR? Because there's a lot to ask, वैसे तो, but then, what is the specific negative history that will help us know that she has FGR?
See, the moment you get a patient in your exam, no, the chief complaint that she will give itself will be, I have been admitted because my child is not growing properly. One is that. Other thing is she will say, I have diminished fetal movements. Other complaint is that. Other than that, she might say the liquor volume is less. पानी कम हो गया था. Okay, or she will say कि वजन बढ़ नहीं रहा है. The most common thing they will say during exam is I have been admitted क्योंकि मेरा बच्चा बराबर नहीं grow रहा. The moment she says that, you have to think this is a case of fetal growth restriction. Okay. And like Omkar has already summarized, so your questioning will go in that direction.
Okay, ma'am. So in the chief
You want me to
complaints,
summarize the entire history?
no, ma'am. In the chief complaint, so do we just mention amenorrhea, or we do mention that she came with the chief complaints of no or reduction in her weight or something like that?
Ideally, you should just say that chief complaints was that patient who came for patient has been admitted in view of decreased growth of the fetus or whatever she says. 9 months of amenorrhea can come in your history of present pregnancy. Chief complaint means sirf her complaint, only her complaint.
Okay.
Okay. Then anything else?
Since smoking increases the risk of IUGR due to increased vasoconstrictions, which happens at the so how come smoking is not a risk factor, or which
Of
increases
course, it's a risk factor.
for pregnancy induced hypertension. Matlab, because in that also there is increased blood pressure, but we say smoking doesn't affect. Whenever in the history in PIH, smoking is not a significant thing which we ask for. But smoking does increases the risk of hypertension even in
Because the
non-pregnant.
pathology in fetal growth restriction is different and the pathology in preeclampsia is different, isn't it? What is the pathology in fetal growth restriction?
The spiral arteries.
Yeah. So the vasoconstriction is not the damage is already done in preeclampsia. Are you understanding? Smoking in general in pregnancy is not good, but it is not going to increase the risk in preeclampsia because it is already a vasoconstricted state. So it's not going to respond to the smoking in general, whereas it is an added risk factor for fetal growth restriction because you might have a healthy baby there growing normally. And if you are going on smoking in the second and third trimester, that vasoconstriction can cause fetal growth restriction. Are you
Okay.
understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. The pathology is different. That is why.
Ma'am, one last question. Hello, ma'am. How to differentiate between symmetrical FGR and SGA if we are given a case and if we are asked this question?
First of all, they will not ask you this question in the exam because between SGA and symmetrical FGR, no, it is very difficult. It's only the Doppler changes that will tell you that this is only a small for gestational age baby or there is something going on with the baby. In symmetrical FGR, usually there are changes in the Doppler, whereas in SGA there are no changes in the Doppler. It is only small for gestational age. Like the parameters will be lesser, but the blood flow to the baby will be fine. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Welcome. Sorry. I think your next lecture is tomorrow, so you can go and read for that. I will disconnect the call now. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.